Jesus has been sentenced to death by crucifixion, but before the crucifixion, there are a number of things that happen to him. First, he is flogged. Now, flogging is when we think of flogging, it has really no resemblance to what actually happened to Jesus. This would have been, his hands would have been tied to a post. His torso would have been exposed, and there was a whip that they called the cat of nine tails. It was less a whip, more a method of torture. This cat of nine tails would be a piece of leather that was braided together, and on the ends would be little pieces of metal, little ball bearings, pieces of broken glass. And what would happen is the soldier that wielded that instrument would whip the person that was tied to that stake and then yank down, which would rip flesh. It was an excruciating experience. By the end of this flogging, Jesus's body, his back and his sides would be laid bare. They would no longer look like human flesh. It is possible that even some of his internal organs could be exposed in this. This is also the moment where that robe is placed on him. It's also the moment where a crown of thorns is placed on him. It's also a moment where they take the crossbeam, the patibulum, it's a piece of lumber, a piece of wood, and he would carry that all the way from the place where they placed it on him to the place of his execution right outside the city. Several times he would stumble and fall. They would pick him up, but one time he stumbled and he couldn't get up. And so they grabbed a man from the crowd. His name was Simon, and they said, "You carry the cross the rest of the way." And so he did. He carried the cross the rest of the way. They finally found their way to a hill called Golgotha, the place of the skull. In church, we sing about it as Calvary, but it was a place of execution. It was a place that Jesus was not the only one executed that day, and the three that were executed that day by crucifixion were probably not the only three that had been executed there. It was a place that was common to the people of Jerusalem. It was a place of execution. Jesus would be laid down on the patibulum, and his hands through the wrists would be nailed to that piece of wood. And then he would be elevated and placed on the stake, the upright part of the cross. And that stake would hold him, and his feet would be bent up, and his feet would be affixed again with a nail through both feet to the cross. It was an excruciating experience. In that moment, there was a sign that was placed above Jesus. It said, "Jesus Christ, the King of the Jews." I'm sorry, it said Jesus of Nazareth. They would never call him Christ. It said Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Now, this was a cross. This was a sign that was supposed to be an accusation. He's being crucified because he called himself Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. And nobody gets to be king except Caesar. That's why he was crucified. But in this moment, he actually is placing a sign. His accusers are placing a sign above him that describes exactly who he is. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. It makes me think, in my life and your life, what if we walked around with a sign above our head that told what we think about Jesus? Would it say, Jesus of Nazareth, my best friend? Would it say, Jesus of Nazareth, he's there when I need him? Would it say, Jesus of Nazareth, I visit him every Sunday? Or would it say, Jesus of Nazareth, Lord and Savior of my life? What would your sign say if you accused Jesus of who he is in your life?